Begin script. The air was thick with anticipation in Ouagadougou. All eyes were on Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young and fiery leader who had risen from the ranks of the military to become the de facto head of Burkina Faso. His words, delivered with fierce clarity and nationalist passion, would soon echo far beyond the country's borders and ignite a firestorm among powerful international actors. On that day, Captain Traoré did not mince his words. Standing before a crowd of supporters, security forces, and members of the transitional government, he cast aside diplomatic niceties and launched into a blistering critique of foreign interference in West Africa. He began by addressing the history that had brought Burkina Faso to this point. Decades of post-colonial manipulation, failed promises of development aid, and the relentless spread of terrorism across the Sahel region. But Traoré's speech wasn't about victimhood, it was a declaration of defiance. He spoke directly to the people of Burkina Faso. His voice unwavering, he said, "We cannot continue to be puppets of foreign powers while our people die, our lands burn, and our sovereignty is trampled underfoot. Burkina Faso is not for sale. Our future will not be written in Washington, Paris, or Brussels. It will be written here, by us, with our own hands." These words, spoken in French and translated across the world within hours, sent immediate shockwaves through diplomatic circles. Western embassies scrambled to understand the full implications. But Traoré was just getting started. He then turned, his focus to the so-called international partners who, he claimed, had done more to destabilize the region than to help it. Without naming names directly, he described how some foreign forces had used counterterrorism as a pretext to occupy strategic positions, extract valuable resources, and influence internal politics. "If your presence here for over a decade has not brought peace, then what are you really doing?" he asked, staring straight into the cameras. He accused certain foreign intelligence networks of funding armed groups through back channels, creating the very crises they claim to be solving. He mentioned how arms shipments often found their way into terrorist hands mysteriously, and how military convoys were being monitored, not just by enemies, but by supposed allies. The tension in the crowd was palpable, and yet Traoré's tone never wavered. It was not a speech of fear, but of unwavering resolve. Then came the most incendiary line of the entire address. "From this day forward, any foreign military base operating on Burkina soil without full transparency and alignment with our national interests will be considered a hostile presence. We will reclaim our land, our security, and our destiny." It was a direct challenge, not just to foreign military forces, but to the entire geopolitical architecture that had propped up influence in the region for decades. Burkina Faso's enemies, whether they were terrorist networks or powerful foreign lobbies, took notice. Within 24 hours, statements poured in from across the globe. Some governments expressed deep concern over Traoré's rhetoric. Others accused him of fueling anti-Western sentiment. Several media outlets labeled the speech as radical, dangerous, and even catastrophic. But to many in Burkina Faso and across West Africa, it was a long-awaited moment of truth. Within the country, Traoré's popularity surged. Social media lit up with messages of support. Hashtags praising sovereignty and African unity trended for days. In neighboring nations like Mali and Niger, similar sentiments echoed among their own frustrated populations. Behind closed doors, though, the backlash was fierce. International funding was quietly reconsidered. Intelligence agencies began re-evaluating their posture. Think tanks issued reports on the threat of a rising Pan-African nationalism. Traoré had crossed an invisible line, and Burkina Faso was now seen as a case study in rebellion against the established order. But for Traoré, the cost was worth it. His speech marked a clear pivot. Since then, Burkina Faso has sought to forge new alliances, some in the east, others within Africa itself. The government began tightening control over its borders, pushing for regional security pacts that exclude traditional foreign players. The global implications are still unfolding. Some analysts say that Traoré's stance has opened the door for other African nations to challenge neo-colonial dynamics. Others warn that isolation could bring economic hardship or increased military tensions. Regardless of which side you stand on, one thing is undeniable. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's speech was not just a moment of political theater. It was a turning point, one that redefined Burkina Faso's place in the world and dared to challenge a system that many believed was unshakable.